there was a young man that was getting his teeth kicked in, that was trying his best in life, doing everything that he could to try to figure this thing out, to try to create a life for himself, mold a life that he would enjoy living, to get to a point in his life where he could provide for a family. And nothing that he was doing seemed to work. And so one day he heard about the wealthiest man on planet Earth was going to be hanging out at this beautiful resort right on the beach, not too far from where he lived. So he decided that maybe going and asking this wise man what the secret to success was would maybe help him. He was grasping at straws. He was so tired of nothing working. He was exasperated. He was tired. I mean, he was just like, he just didn't know what to do. He was totally frustrated. And through some miracle, he actually manages to get into this resort and get into the area, you know, in the pool where this wise man is. And he's able to walk up and say, you know, Mr. Wise Man, I am so sorry for bothering you, but man, I'm a young man that wants to have an incredible life. I want to make an impact on this world. I believe God put me here for more than I'm doing. I believe God put me here to do something great. I believe that God put me here for abundance. And, you know, to be brutally honest with you, I just haven't found it yet. I don't know what to do. Nobody taught me how to be successful. So please give me your secret to success, if you will. And the wise man, you know, looked at the kid and really saw a lot of himself in that young man. Remembered back in the day when he was going through some of the similar struggles that this young man was going through. And he said, you know, he took this young man, wrapped his arm around his shoulder and said, sure, son, let's walk down towards the beach. And, you know, and I will share with you the secret to success. And as they're walking down, you know, they're talking a little bit. They get down to the edge of the beach, and the old wise man says, come on, let's go out into the water. And he walks out in the water, in the waves on this ocean with this young man. And they get out to, you know, about chest deep. And when the young man starts to ask, you know, the wise man again, like, what is the secret to, and the old man just grabs the kid and pushes him under the water, holds his head under the water for a long time. And the kid is struggling and fighting and doing everything that he can to get up. And the old man lifts him up and lets him get a breath of air. And the young man starts to say, sir, what? And then throws him under the water again. And he repeats that 3 or 4 times. And then finally, he lets the kid up, and the kid is gasping and choking and, you know, red-faced and just like, what in the world are you doing? Why are you trying to drown me? And the old man says, young feller, when you want to succeed as bad as you just wanted to breathe, then you will have success. And folks, the reason I tell that story is because I realized this week that most of us are too casual about our success. Most people would like to have success. Most people, if you ask them, do you want to be rich or do you want to be poor? They're going to pick rich. Do you want to have a life that has a lot of impact or one that doesn't have any impact? They're going to choose the one with impact. You know, do you want to have great relationships or mediocre relationships? They're going to pick great relationships, and so on and so forth, folks. But most people, although they would like to have those things, never want them bad enough to really figure out and do what it takes to get them. And so, folks, this is called Monday Funday, you know, touching your dreams. And it is going to be fun. But in the beginning, I wanted to paint a picture because I realized this week that I was talking to some people about creating financial freedom in their life and creating like the ability to quit their job. And a couple of these people that I were talking to, they couldn't even get their mind wrapped around quitting their job. Like, even if they had a couple million in the bank, the idea of like quitting their job and not having that 40-40-40 plan that has been, just beaten into us our whole lives. Go to school, get a good education, get a good job. Like, that's so deeply ingrained in so many people that I realize that here I am, I'm talking about something that they can't even really imagine, that they can't even believe is possible for themselves. And folks, if you don't believe it's possible, then you're never going to start taking the actions and doing the activities that will get you to where you want to be. So one of the most important things before I get into the fun stuff is I want you to realize that you really gotta want it. I heard it once said, well, I've heard it many times said, that your why ought to make you cry. In other words, the reason that you want what you want should be so important to you that it kind of brings a tear to your eye when you think about it. Like, imagine to yourself if you had a child that was ill, and for whatever reason, the only way you could cure this child was to get a hold of $1 million cash. Would anything stop you? I mean, like, literally, I know it's a story, but literally, if there was a doctor that said, hey, your son is curable, but it's going to take $1 million to get him the treatment that you need, all of the insurance companies had turned you down. It was an experimental treatment. They weren't going to pay for it. Your only option was to make $1 million. And let's just say you couldn't go out and borrow it. But let's just say that even if you could borrow it, let's say most of us probably wouldn't have the ability to maybe borrow $1 million. There's nobody that we could just hop on the phone with and say, hey, hey, Dad or Uncle Joe or whatever, like, Junior is going to pass away from this rare disease, but I found out that there's a cure, and for $1 million, I can save his life. You got $1 million I can have? Most people don't necessarily have the ability. So imagine that you're just a normal, hardworking, everyday person that's just living paycheck to paycheck. How would you get $1 million in the next 12 months? I don't know. But what I do know is I do know that none of you would say, well, I guess Junior is just going to have to live with the fact that he's only got 12 more months on this planet. We better make it good. Baloney. Nobody that's watching this video would ever do that. And if you would, please go unsubscribe from the channel and don't listen to my stuff. But I know that the people that are listening to this channel, and myself included, we would do everything in our power. And you know what? I would bet good money. I would bet good money. I would bet just about anything in my power to bet that if any of us were in that situation, we would have $1 million in the next 12 months. It would be a done deal. I guarantee you, if my son needed $1 million in the next 12 months, or he was not going to be on this planet, he would have $1 million in probably 3, 4, 5, 6 months. My point, folks, is what happened. Our mind shift would have instantly changed from something that we'd kind of like, or something that would be cool if it happened, to something that we absolutely needed as bad as we wanted to breathe. And that's the whole moral of that story. That kid that was struggling through life thought that he wanted these things, but he just wanted them if it didn't cost too much, if the price that he had to pay to have them wasn't too much, if he didn't have to work, if he could just work 4, 5, 6, 8 hours a day, cool. But if he had to work 16, 18, 20 hours a day, count me out. And so most folks just kind of want to have success. They'd kind of like to have success. They'd kind of like to be able to provide for their family and be able to pay for their child's public school. But you know what? If I don't get there, it's okay. Public school ain't that bad. Man, I would really like to drive that Mercedes-Benz that has all of the safety features and that is, designed to withstand, huge impact, and is, some of the best engineering in the world. And it's got that convertible top, and it's just an amazing car. I would like to drive that. But you know what? The Honda Civic that I'm driving ain't so bad. It gets me to where I'm going. And folks, I'm not talking about, coming from a place where you just want stuff, but I'm just telling you, most people, I would like the house that has, this is me. I want a house that has an amazing swimming pool. And in my mind, I see this swimming pool, like going lengthwise for a long ways out into my yard, but like the first 30, 40 feet of it being kind of inset inside my house with kind of, protection and like a big high glass vaulted ceiling that, is kind of like an atrium. And when you're inside that area, you've got your chairs and your picnic tables and different stuff. That would probably be like where you would eat. And then I love the idea of having it to where a glass partition comes down and actually kind of goes down and touches the water. So if you're in that area and you want to go outside to where the pool is, you actually have to kind of swim under the water for a moment or two to get out into the outdoor area. I want that backyard to have a big basketball court that then basically has a tennis net off to the side, where all you got to do if you want to play tennis or pickleball or something is just pull the net across. I want to have a great big huge garage, that's offset, that's back behind all of that. And in that garage, I imagine like 5, 6, 7 different driveways. And inside, or not driveways, a big garage, but yeah, 7 different stalls. And inside there, one of the cars is going to be a 1970 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme 442. Another one of those cars is going to be a Cadillac Escalade. And another one of those cars is going to be a red Ferrari convertible. And I've got more that I'm coming up with. And then I literally dream about myself hopping in one of those cars, and I drive it a few miles from my house to this private airport. And in my mind, when I'm imagining this, I drive it to this airport, but I drive to the private side of the airport, and there's like this fenced in area that's restricted access. When they see me coming, they open up my car, and I drive my Ferrari or my Escalade or whatever it is right up to this private jet. You know how private jets have like the big old Boeing 747 logo or whatever on them? Mine's got the Infinite Crypto logo on that top wing, that sticks up out of the top of the plane. The big one that sticks up out of the top has the great big Infinite Crypto logo. And when I hop out of my car, I go around and open my trunk, and I start to grab my suitcase, and somebody stops me and says, "Mr. Varnell, don't worry, we got that." And I go walk up these steps into my private jet, and the pilot and the stewardess and stuff are there to greet me. I go back, and I said, I even imagine like what side of the jet that I'm going to sit on, and where like the big screen TV is that I'm going to watch. And folks, I say all of that to say you have to create the life that you really want in your mind, and then you have to believe, that it's real. So one more thing before we get into the fun stuff is you've taken the step to decide what you really want. You've made it a priority. You've helped it become so important that you want it as bad as you want to breathe. We're going to go into a couple of the steps for that, because you don't just go from kind of wanting it to maybe liking to have it to having it be something that you need to have worse than you need to breathe just overnight. You don't just look yourself in the mirror and say, I got to have it. You gotta, there's a little bit of work involved in the process if you're not there yet. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, the other thing is, though, you have to really start to believe. So what I realized in my own life, listening to a gentleman named Ed Milet that I know that I talk about all the time, is he mentioned in one of the videos that I was watching recently how if you don't literally believe that you're worthy of your dream, if you don't believe that you can actually have the things that you're dreaming about and that you deserve to have them, your actions will not be congruent with the dreams that you have. So they'll just stay a daydream. It'll just be like when you were, 8, 9 years old, sitting in class and you were daydreaming, you were looking out the window, thinking about, whatever, you were thinking about little Susie, giving little Susie a smooch during recess, or playing a little football during recess, or the video games you were going to play after school, or, just kind of a daydream rather than it being, a real dream. You got to go from daydreaming, folks, to real dreaming. Daydreaming is God's gift to us. Our imagination is one of the best things that God ever gave us, but you have to take it from just a picture in your mind, something that, like I said, that you would like to have. I know I'm using that term, like to have, a lot, but so many people would just like to have. Very few people get to the point where they gotta have, and you gotta get to where you gotta have it. So, with that, folks, I want to get over and show you how you can kind of start to touch your dream, believe that you're worthy of it, because you will never exceed what you believe you are worth in life. And so if you were raised in a very, rich and affluent household, then you would potentially be, used to that kind of stuff. It would feel like you were supposed to be there. If you grew up in a mansion, or if you grew up in a household where your parents had, multiple six-figure cars in the driveway, and you got to learn how to drive in those things when you were 16. You got to go to the country club, golf country club, and eat at, the fancy restaurants, or watch your parents drop $500, $1,000 on dinner. Well, you grew up in that environment, so there would be no doubt that you belonged in it, because you were used to it. Just like a fish, if a fish was born in the ocean, it never questions whether it belongs in the ocean. It just does. But man, I tell you what, if you took a fish and you put it in a little fish bowl, a little fish tank, and it got used to swimming around in that little fish tank, the first time, if you weren't and took it and threw it in the ocean, it would be scared to death. It wouldn't know what to do. It would just be like totally, it would be scared. Like I said, wouldn't know what to do. It'd be totally uncomfortable. And that's what happens with us, folks, when we're trying to touch our dreams. Some of the things that we want, the first time we experience them, are totally uncomfortable, and we feel like that fish that just got thrown into the ocean from the little fish bowl. But what will happen, folks, if you continue to touch that dream, then you're going to have the ability to start feeling like you belong. And when you start feeling like you belong, folks, you're going to start to do the things that it takes to belong. And so with that, I'm going to go a little bit different direction here real fast. I want to say hi to everybody and just kind of wish you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. I'm so glad that you're here. And I wanted to run over to the chat real quick. I know there's just been a ton of stuff going on in the chat. I just wanted to shout out everybody that's here watching, that's taking the time to make a comment. Eric, happy Monday to you too, brother. I hope you are doing fantastic. We got old Dave P in the house. Good to see you, Dave, man. I hope you are doing wonderful, having a great Monday. Deadwood, as usual. I appreciate you, Deadwood. I messaged you in Discord. I don't know if you saw it, but as soon as this live stream is over, I'm going to get those Matic tokens rolled out to you. Appreciate your patience. Stregahart, thank you so much for being here, man. It's good to see you again, my brother. I don't remember the last time I saw you on a Monday live stream, so fantastic. Appreciate you being here. And anybody else? Yes, there we go. Tim G in the house. Hey, Tim, we missed you on the Infinite Crypto Inner Circle this last Saturday. I hope you're doing fantastic, man. And for those of you, I know that a lot of you that I just called out are in the inner circle. It's no surprise to me that the people that show up for all of these live streams are also the folks that were the first to jump into the inner circle. So I want to say thank you for that. And I also wanted to mention that this coming Saturday, we are going to be at a cryptocurrency event here in Las Vegas and doing some filming and getting some content and meeting some new projects. So the next inner circle is not going to be this coming Saturday, but it does look like there's no reason in the world that we can't do it on August 24th and August 31st. So any of you that are in the inner circle, mark that on your calendar, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, August 24th, and then on Saturday, August 31st for the next 2 inner circle meetings. Hey, Paul in the house. Yeah, once again, another incredible inner circle mastermind guy. Appreciate all of the stuff that we talked about on Saturday, and really did appreciate you. One of the guys that was on that, Dr. David Bertner, who was a little shy, he actually told me afterwards in a text message that he really, liked some of the things that you had to say, and that, you and Deadwood were not really intimidating, but he feels like you guys are experts and like you really know what you're talking about. And he feels pretty new to crypto. So he is a little shy, but he also was having some trouble, getting his mic unmuted, so that he had a little technical difficulty. So hopefully the next time we get on there and do an inner circle, he will be ready to go and be a part of that and help out. Hey, we got Kosh Slyer, man. Hey, everybody loves Dave, man. I love that. Good to have you here. Thank you for being here. And, folks, that reminds me, one of the things that would be so appreciated, folks, would be if you would share these Mondays. A lot of times we have a reservation maybe about just sharing straight crypto videos with our friends and family, because if they're not excited about crypto, if they're not really open yet to crypto, a lot of times they're not going to watch them, or even if they do watch them, they don't really understand much about what is in the video. And so I found that getting somebody excited about crypto and helping them change the wealth needle in their life, it's easier to expose them to something like this. You get them and share this Monday live stream on your Facebook or in different places, and you can get, or if you can get your family, like most of your family member, a lot of your loved ones, they want to have more in life. They want to be more successful. They want to have nicer houses, nicer cars. They want to have those things. And so one of the ways that you can kind of backdoor them into realizing that crypto is such an incredible way for them to achieve their financial goals is to get them onto some of these Monday mindset, things. So appreciate, Dave, if you invited, Kaj, man, that is amazing. Definitely appreciate it. Folks, bear with me. I'm still learning all of this stuff. I'm not sure if it was a smart idea to just come right in the middle of the video and do what I just did rather than sticking with the point, but heck with it. I'll figure it out. But I know a lot of you were like right there with me inside that story, inside that bubble, and thinking about the things that I was talking about. And then I jump right into this. And so I'm learning. I'll figure it out. I'm actually reading a book right now. I'm always telling you guys about reading. So, this is my current book, Secret of Dynamic Communication. And I realized by reading this book how little I actually knew about dynamic communication. And I'm excited as I start to hone these skills, what I can hopefully turn into, as a speaker. So let me get back into what we were talking about though. Funday Monday. And so before we get into the touching your dreams, I did want to mention, I just mentioned it a little bit, but from like a sport point of view, if you've ever wondered why famous athletes, why a lot of times their children also go on to be athletes, you might think that it's because they have, the athletic ability, they have the genes, obviously having a parent that's been successful in that avenue is certainly helpful. And all of that is very, very true. But I would like to suggest that one of the biggest reasons is because when you take like a Venus and Serena Williams, their father had them playing tennis from a very, very young age. So absolutely, the skills that they developed by holding a tennis racket in their hand from the time that they were basically old enough to walk, certainly gives them an advantage over somebody that's 10, 11, 12, 15 years old that decides to play tennis. But I think even more importantly than that, folks, is that they never, ever wondered if they belonged. Imagine if you're a Serena or, Venus Williams, and you were in that environment. Just like we talked about, a fish that's born in the ocean never questions whether or not it belongs in the ocean. Well, folks like that, they never question whether or not they belong in the arena, whether they belong on the tennis courts, because it's just a natural part of their life. Now, imagine that you're 12 years old and you decide that you want to be a tennis player and you love tennis, and you come from a middle-class home. Well, tennis is also kind of one of those sports where it can be a little bit expensive. And so let's say that your parents figure out a way to get you into a tennis school. You're still going to always have, especially in the beginning, you're going to feel uncomfortable. A lot of the other people that are playing tennis are coming from affluent homes. Maybe you're the kid that's showing up with your used tennis shoes and they've got the brand new tennis shoes, and they maybe make fun of you a little bit. And you just never you feel like the black duck or whatever it is, the black duckling story where all of the ducks are white and you got the little black duck. You always feel like you're kind of the black sheep of the place. And all these other people feel like they belong. And I think that is a massive, massive, huge reason why a lot of those folks go on. Of course, Archie Manning, raised Peyton Manning, and why can't I think of his other son's name right off the top of my head? I want to say Drew, but it's not Drew. I can't think of the other one's name. Peyton Manning is the older brother, and his younger brother played for the New York Giants, and I can't think of his name. But anyways, they both went on to have, Hall of Fame careers. Well, part of that was definitely the fact that they had a father that was versed, but he also was able to put them in situations to where they never worried about Eli. There you go. Thank you, Dave. Eli Manning. So they were put into situations where they never had to wonder if they belonged. And so once again, I want to go back. It is so important that people that maybe feel like we're on the outside looking in, it's important for us to start figuring out how to get on the inside looking out. And I'm going to go over a few of those ways. And I know there's some of you that are watching this that are like, man, I don't have any money. I don't have any money at all. And I'm going to go over some of the ways to do that too. I'm going to start off with some of the things that you can do that cost a few bucks. They're not expensive. And and they're so they're doable. But I mean, if you're really, really super, super, super tight, some of these things may not make sense for you right now, but they will in the future. And there's other things that you can do, in the meantime. So one of the stories that Ed Milet tells that I love the most is he lived down in Southern California. And so there was a Ritz-Carlton hotel right on the beach, not too far from where he lived. I mean, he lived kind of in the ghetto, but it didn't take too long to get to this Ritz-Carlton. So when he first started doing better in business and started making some money, he would set these goals and learn from that. Set a goal. Don't just get off of this, this live stream today and say, oh, well, I'm going to go do XYZ tomorrow. No, set yourself a goal like, hey, if I make X amount of crypto in the next 30 days, or if I make X amount of money in my investments, I make this much of a gain in my investments over the next 90 days. Or, if you have the ability to have some control over your income, like if you're just working 40 hours a week for X amount of dollars, you can't work any extra hours, you can't make any more per hour than you're making, this might not pertain to you. But if you're working in a profession where like you're a realtor and you sell more houses than normal and that would make you more money, or if you're in sales and you make more sales, you can make more money, then set a goal where if you make X amount of dollars in the next 30, 60, 90 days, that you're going to go do something special like this. So for Ed Milet, it was going to go to a Ritz-Carlton. And once again, part of it is getting out of your comfort zone and doing things that help you learn to be in the environment. So he tells the story where the very first time him and his wife decided to go to this Ritz-Carlton, they just went for one night. but he pulled up in his Honda CRX. And that was the first thing that was super uncomfortable, like pulling up to this place in a Honda CRX when there's all of the Bentleys and the Rolls Royces and all of these fancy cars around. But he did it. He got out of his comfort zone. He pulled up to the valet, wasn't even sure exactly where to park, how it all worked. He wasn't sure whether he should tip the valet driver on the way in or on the way out. So he just did both so that he didn't look funny. But he says he'll never forget when, he got out of the car and the valet driver, opened the door and said, hey, welcome to the Ritz-Carlton. What is your name? Oh, Mr. Milet, so great to have you here. And then he, walked around to the back of his CRX and popped open the hatch, and he went to grab his suitcase. And, a bellman had come up by that point and said, no, Mr. Milet. Hey, we got that. He didn't even realize that, that he didn't have to carry his own bags. Then they get up to this room, and it's the nicest room that he's ever been in his life. Just incredible, duck feathered filled pillows, and there's a chocolate on there. And I mean, like, it was just absolute heaven. And the first time that he did it, he felt like he was a duck out of water. He felt like that black sheep, like he didn't belong. He never experienced anything like this. But, then he sent his wife down to the spa, and she had an amazing spa day. He went out and played a round of golf. It wasn't super expensive. He says this was back a while ago. He says, it's like $700 or $800. And for somebody that's, $700 or $800 on one day sounds relatively expensive. But once again, he made it a goal. But the point of the story is then he set another goal and he didn't make it. And he set another goal and he didn't make it. Finally, about 4 months later, he hit his goal, and him and his wife got to do it again. Well, the next time he went, he knew how to tip the valet driver. He knew not to go grab his bags that they were bringing him. When he got in there and his wife wanted to go to the spa, she just knew where the spa was. She didn't have to ask for directions and be uncomfortable. And the moral of the story is after having done that a couple of times, he ended up, becoming more and more comfortable with that. And he ended up living on the water in probably what was a $20 or $30 million house. Don't quote me on that. Maybe it's only 5 or 10 million. I can't swear, but it was a multi-million dollar house right on the water. If you go to the Ed Milet show and watch some of his older podcasts, he does a lot of the recordings for that show out on the patio with the ocean right in the background. You could literally walk down out of his backyard onto this private beach right into the ocean, and he did it, on a daily basis. And then he, wanted to go play some golf, and he started going to like Palm Desert, La Quinta in Palm Desert, and going to, I think it was a JW Marriott. And he went to that place and got used to that golf club and playing there. And then he says kind of at the end of the story that his 2 houses that he ended up owning, the first one was in Laguna Beach, right on the water. The second house that he ended up going and buying was a house in La Quinta on a golf course. So the other thing that you're doing when you do these types of things is you're programming your subconscious mind. And so, something else that I would highly recommend, if you're anything like me and you really like steak and seafood and stuff like that, instead of going to, the Outback or the Red Lobster, which are both fine restaurants, I go to them too, and I enjoy them. But instead of going to those, and spending $100 or whatever it is, $125 on a dinner, instead of going and doing that maybe once a week or however often you go out, save up your money for 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, and then go to a really nice, expensive steakhouse and spend $400 or $500 on one meal and get the steak. Like, I'm telling you, when you go to a really nice steakhouse and you order that bone-in ribeye, the ribeye at the Outback just ain't going to taste as good as it used to. So a lot of people might say, oh, that food's just overpriced and it's just expensive and it's no better than the Outback or the Red Lobster. Don't let them fool you. That ain't true. The food at these restaurants, most of the time, if they're good ones, is very, very worth the money, and it's worth the experience. It's worth the ambiance. It's worth, I'll never forget a couple of the first times that my wife and I went and experienced nicer dinners like that. And once again, so I know what Ed is talking about because I felt it. We felt out of place. Like, what should we wear? Like, do we gotta dress up in like formal gear? Do we gotta wear a suit and tie and her a real nice dress? Do we just wear, some khakis and a polo shirt? Like, what happens if I just show up in my shorts and my flip-flops? Like, literally, I had to go find out, hey, what's the dress code? Found out that you show up in a tank top or flip-flops, you're not getting in. But that you didn't necessarily need a suit and tie either. You could wear just nice, dress wear, even a nice pair of, clean jeans that didn't have a bunch of rips and stuff in, but just a nice pair of clean jeans and a nice, polo shirt or something was fine. But man, for me, and your dreams and what is important to you is going to be different. So if this is something that is not, you're like, I could care less about having a nice meal, then don't just, listen to the next part. But me and my wife, when the server came out and the way that they pour, they don't just come to your table with tap water at a nice restaurant like that. They bring out bottled water and pour it into your glass. They bring out this incredible bread basket that's got like 4, 5, 6 different types of bread. There's a little sourdough. There's this flat bread that reminds you more of a cracker. There's these ones that are in like circles that kind of remind you of a straw. And then there's the brown, the darker brown bread, and so on and so forth. And they bring out the butter. And like, when you get ready to eat, nothing comes to you. When you say, can we get some ketchup, please? Not that you eat ketchup a lot at a restaurant, but if you were, they don't bring your ketchup out to you in a Heinz bottle and set it on the table. They bring it out to you in a real nice looking, serving dish, and so on and so forth. And then once again, it's like there's 2 of them. A lot of times in these nicer restaurants, there's 2 people that are constantly, making sure that you're okay. They make sure like it's first class all the way. You never run out of anything. If your water glass gets all the way empty, something was bad happened in the restaurant, because no matter how fast you drink the water, you pretty much can't get it to be empty. Somebody's standing there to fill it up. And then when they bring out the food, man, it's just exquisite, the way that they put it on your plate, and the prepping of it, and then just absolutely amazing. And you're sitting there, the lights are kind of turned down, so you're romantic. You're gazing into your, beautiful bride's eyes or your husband's eyes. And it's just, it's somewhat magical. But the first time I was like, okay, so the steak is $100. Like, what is that? What comes with it? Because it doesn't say, like, at Outback, you get your steak and you get a couple of sides with it. Well, at a fancy restaurant, you get your steak and it don't talk about the sides. Well, it took me a minute. I had to realize, hey, that's just the steak, $100 for the steak. And then if you want some asparagus or mashed potatoes or Brussels sprouts or macaroni and cheese, those are what are called, side dishes. They're a la carte. You have to pay for them one at a time, however you want them. But man, I tell you what, you go to Barry's Prime down at the Circa Hotel on Fremont Street, and you order the lobster macaroni and cheese, it is to die for. Like, if you like macaroni and cheese, you like lobster, I've never had a better lobster mac and cheese. I want to say that it is Prime Restaurant at the Bellagio has these unbelievable, like, pan-seared Brussels sprouts, butter, and the seasoning and stuff. And anyways, folks, you got to go touch your dream. But my point is, now I've gone to those restaurants, dozens of times, and now I walk in and I know what I'm doing. I'm not a fish out of the water. I feel like I belong. And so what do you do if money is kind of tight and you want to feel like you belong? Well, there's 2 things that you can do. It's, you got to get out of your comfort zone. But one of my favorite things to do is to go to houses that I can't afford to buy yet and just walk through them. So it's easy to get into, different real estate places. Eric will vouch for this. Eric Bernstein works in real estate. It's not too hard to find $1 million house that's somewhere in the vicinity of where you live that is for sale. And when it's for sale, they do open houses on Saturday and Sunday, and anybody is welcome. They don't have a security guard at the door saying, "Excuse me, sir, can you please prove that you can buy this house before we let you come in and walk through it?" No, absolutely not, man. They treat every single person like they are a superstar, like they are, incredible, because they can't prejudge. They don't know whether you're broke or whether you're rich. You're there, and they're going to treat you like $1 million. So you're going to have this person come and walk you through the house, show you all of the cool things about it, and you get to start feeling what it would be like to live. You and your wife are up in the master bedroom, and you're like, man, could you imagine if you had your bed? Where would we put our bed, babe? Oh man, I see that it'd probably go over in this corner of the room over here. And then we would we would put this here and this here. And then you walk into the bathroom, and in this house, the bathroom is as big or bigger than like your kids' bedrooms are in the house that you live in right now. And there's like 2 closets, and both of the closets are bigger than the closets combined at your house right now. And your wife is inside this, what is more like a mini bedroom, that's her closet. And she's thinking about, man, this is where I put my shoes. This is where I could put my dress. You come out and you see that incredible marble with the bathtub inlaid in it, and the incredible, shower that's big enough for 2 people, got nozzles coming from both directions. And you start thinking about how incredible it would be to live someplace like that. And you do that a few times, and you really can start to feel like you belong. And it goes from being something that you would just kind of like to have to something that you gotta have. It's something now that really becomes in the forefront of your mind, where right now you might think about that house once every 6 months or once a year. Something comes up that makes you think about that dream house, but you're not thinking about it on a daily basis or on a constant basis, folks. You got to get these dreams to where they're marinating and they're on your mind all the time. Another thing that you can do, for most car places, you can walk right in and ask to test drive a car. It's none of their business that you're not going to buy it that day. In fact, I think it's a great way to meet people and give yourself an opportunity to find out if these people are even worthy of your business. So in some cases, I'll walk into a dealership and I'll let them know, hey man, I'm just dreaming. This is something that is on my bucket list. I want to own this Cadillac Escalade. And towards the end of this year, because of my crypto investments and my YouTube channel and the things that I'm doing, I believe that I'm probably about, say, 4, 5, 6 months away from walking back in here and buying it. And I kind of like to see if the person still treats me like gold, if they give me their best. Because if they don't, then I know for sure that I'm not going back to that person when I'm ready to buy. I may not even go back to that dealership. There's 3 or 4 different Cadillac dealerships, in my town. And so it's a cool way to figure out if people are genuine and they care about you and they want to help you. But you don't have to go through that. Just act as if you're looking to buy it. And the next thing you know, you're driving an Escalade around town. And I'm telling you, if you've never driven, a Cadillac Escalade, it's a new experience, especially with the newer ones. All of the bells and whistles, and like you turn on the turn signal and it turns in, there's a mirror on your dash, or not a mirror, there's a camera like on your dash that you can see that shows you what's beside you. So, I still am so used to doing the head check, but literally I don't have to, because there's a spot right in front of me where I can see the whole lane to my left. Same thing. You hit the right-hand turn signal, see the whole lane. All of the bells and whistles. When you're backing up, you hit the reverse button. I don't even know how they do this to this day. I'm not quite sure how they do this. There is a camera that looks like it's sitting about 10 feet above your car. And it comes looking straight down to where you can see everything on both sides of your car. So like when you're backing into a parking spot, you can make sure that you're backing in perfect. You can make sure you're not hitting anything. Long story short, though, your wife and you are going to be driving, or your husband and you are going to be driving in this rig, and you're going to be going, oh my gosh, man, you didn't even know. You thought you wanted a Cadillac Escalade, but after you drove one, you really wanted it. Maybe for you, it's the Lincoln Navigator, or maybe it's the Jeep Wagoneer, or maybe it's not an SUV at all. But I'm telling you, you can walk into most Porsche dealerships even and drive a Porsche. If you get up into some of the higher end cars like Ferraris and stuff like that, they do make it a little bit harder to actually go out on a test drive in a Ferrari. But at the same time, you don't really even got to drive the Ferrari. Just go to the dealership and look at the different ones. Like, do you want a hardtop Ferrari? Do you want a hardtop convertible, or would you rather have a soft top convertible? Just look around, get in it, sit in it. You know what? Some people have found that after sitting down in a Ferrari and really seeing what it feels like, how low to the ground it is, how tight it is, some people have decided, you know what? I want a fast car. I want a performance car, but there's cars out there that are made that have a little bit more comfort. So you might even find out after sitting down in one that maybe it is or isn't your cup of tea. Maybe it is or isn't exactly what you want. That's cool to know too, because then you can really narrow down what you do want and you can focus on that dream car. And I would recommend that you get it narrowed down to where you know exactly what you want. You know that you want the Ferrari, you know the exact model that you want, you know the exact, you know, the whether or not it's a convertible or a hardtop, you know what package you want, you know what, if you want it to be a convertible or a hardtop, and then even the color. Like when you're daydreaming about this car, you shouldn't be just daydreaming about a Ferrari. Like for me, it's red. Mine is red. And I'm still dialing down the interior, you know, like the tan interior is cool. They got some that come with like a white interior. I think you can get a black interior. I'm not 1,000% sure on the interior. I think it's going to be red and tan, but the red is just for sure like what I believe I want. And that's what I would have a picture of. So the other thing that you can do is you can get pictures out of magazines. That's pretty much free. Like, yeah, you might have to pay a few dollars for a magazine, but there's even places where you can go and get magazines that are like donated or whatever. You get pictures from magazines and make yourself a vision board and plaster these pictures of the mansions that you want. Find a house, like in my case, I want to find a house that's got a big swimming pool and that's got the basketball court, that's got all of that stuff, and then just take a picture of the backyard. Even if the house itself isn't what I like, take a picture of the backyard and put that up there, and so on and so forth. And folks, so many people will listen to this and think that it's ridiculous, will dismiss it, and won't give it the time of day. What the funny thing is success leaves clues. This is not Brad Varnell's idea. This is all of the multi-millionaires that I have surrounded myself with. This is what they all did. So almost in every case, without exception, these guys dreamed about and started creating a feeling of belonging in their dreams before they came true. Woo, we're already gone an hour. I can't believe it. I swear to goodness, folks, it feels like I've been talking for about 7 minutes. I've got a couple more quick points. Let me see what they are here. I think actually I really went through everything that I had on my notebook here. I had about 7 different points and I hit all of them. And so, I hope today was a little bit of fun and maybe it got you imagining, once again, like whatever your dreams are. I talked about, some houses and some cars and some restaurants. For some of you, like maybe for you, it's 20 acres out in the middle of nowhere with a log cabin. And imagine, and you've got some ducks and you've got some chickens and you've got some cows and you've got some goats and, maybe you've got a creek or a river, that kind of flows through your property, or a great big pond, and you love to fish. So you can imagine this pond, and it's stocked full of fish, and you're able to wake up in the morning and you're out, nobody within in your vicinity for miles and miles, and you get up and you let your 2 or 3 or 8 dogs out of the house, and you go walking through this grass down to your own pond that you've got stocked, and you imagine yourself pulling out your fishing pole and catching yourself some massive fish. Maybe when you're done with that, you walk over towards the creek and you see a family of deer, eating apples from the orchard. And, that's an incredible dream too. And I actually have both, man. I'm a city slicker. I love Vegas. I love the ocean. I love the idea of living on the ocean close to, fancy restaurants and stuff. But I also very much plan on owning some property in Tennessee, maybe South Carolina, a little bit out from like Myrtle Beach, far enough out that it's country. Like, North Carolina's got some. I'm going to have multiple places, and one of them is going to be a place where I have 10, 20, 50, 100 acres. And I'm able to fish and potentially hunt and do whatever I want to do on my property. I imagine having several 4-wheelers and being able to rip around my property on a 4-wheeler. My son and I, my son really loves archery, and I'm starting to think that would be cool too. So I can imagine an area where we've got those great, big, huge hay bales with the bullseyes painted on them, and we've got archery, and we've got a spot, a backdrop, a place where it's safe, to shoot our guns if we want to. Almost, like a paradise within a paradise. One of the things that I love about Ed Milet that I'm really starting, that I'm starting to embrace, is he talks about how successful people, one of the ways they got successful is they're not taking their foot off the gas and taking 2-week, 3-week, month-long vacations all of the time. And so one of the things that he did was he created his dream life into places where he lived. Like, seriously, go watch Ed Milet and find some of the places where it shows this house of his that's right on Laguna Beach. Like, if you lived there, you wouldn't necessarily need to hop on a plane and go to Fiji or go to Bali or go to the Bahamas. I'm getting ready to go to the Bahamas the end of this year, and I love it there. But it's also not a place that I plan on just traveling to as a guest. I want to buy a home there. That home is then going to turn into a vacation rental that cash flows and makes me money, but I'm going to get to go there for a month at a time, 2 months at a time, maybe 6 months at a time if I can talk my wife into it. She's not quite sure that she would want to be there for that amount of time, but I would be living in paradise. And as long as I have internet, I can do everything that I'm doing right now from just about anywhere in the world. So I love that idea of having my house on the ocean. I love the idea of having my house, in Tennessee or someplace where I've got my 20 or 50 acres and it's country-like. I love the idea of having my place that's on the water in, Exuma, Bahamas. And I'm going to create these dream places where when I'm there, I can relax and enjoy my life as much as I want, go to the beach, do all that. But if I want to work, if I want to keep my foot on the gas pedal, if I want to continue to help people, I'm right there to do that too. So folks, hopefully I helped you turn on your dream machine today, because one of my mentors in life, another gentleman named Mark Smith, really was huge on the fact that most of us are not dreaming big enough, and that the first thing that you got to do in this process of getting on this journey, getting on the path to having massive success in your life, is you got to turn the dream machine back on. You've heard me say it before, that I believe that a huge percentage of the population has one foot in the grave and is just waiting for their body to catch up. They're living a life of quiet desperation. They're living a life of settle for, and they really are just gotten beaten down by life to where they don't dream anymore. And if that's you, that's okay. You're not alone. It's a majority of the population is in that place, but keep coming back. Listen to this video 100 times if you need to. Eventually, if you're around dreamers and about people that are going after their dreams, you're going to start dreaming too. So with that, folks, man, I love you all. I appreciate you. I thank you all very much for being here. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video on Wednesday. And so we're going to get out of here and go crush it. Have a fantastic Monday. And I hope you do too. Take care.